Some of the world's most respected scientists have delivered the definitive verdict on climate change. The members of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change say global warming will have a devastating impact on the world, and they say human activity is almost certainly responsible.
The Earth is very precious, very fragile, but perhaps most delicate of all is our climate. And now the world's top scientists are convinced that changes may spiral out of control because of what we're pumping into the air every day. The findings unveiled this morning have global significance. This is the clearest warning yet that the planet is heating up, and the scientists are 90% sure mankind is to blame. A dire and bold conclusion. How can you be sure you're right?
I think scientific knowledge has advanced substantially in recent years, and you've just heard the enormous power of models, the amount of computing that's been done, all of which reduces the uncertainties that existed earlier.
So emissions of greenhouse gases are now categorically linked to the rise in temperatures.
Leveling at 3,000 feet.
The science of this is becoming firmer as the technology has improved. I flew on board Britain's new research plane. The level of carbon dioxide is at its highest for 600,000 years, and it's rising faster than ever. Today's report makes devastating reading.
I think a cold shiver runs down your back because you begin to understand that for the first time in the history of human existence, we have fundamentally affected systems that determine life on the planet as a whole. That is a frightening prospect.
Frightening first on temperature. Warming, it concludes, is now unequivocal, and the scientists say their projections have never been so reliable. Look at the predicted changes in global temperatures this century. First, a forecast of what would happen if we switched to a greener, more local economy. A rise, but then starting to level off. The shading shows the margin of error. Now see what happens if we continue at our current rate of development. That, says the report, would give us a 4-degree rise. But at worst we could face a more than 6-degree rise, the worst-case scenario. The polar ice caps will be at risk. The Arctic is warming, and the more the ice melts, the faster the oceans will heat up, and the more their level will rise. Sea level rise is a major concern. The projections have been narrowed down, but the threat of storm surges is going up. That's what matters to people living on the coast.
We'll have more and more heat waves
And here's another threat. The French Met Office showed me their projections for heat waves, set to become 10 times more common. 3 years ago, a heat wave killed 20,000 people here. In this old people's home in Paris, they remember what happened, and with climate change in mind, they've now got air conditioning, essential even in this northern European city. More heat waves are forecast for Britain as well, and at the same time much stormier weather that would trigger more flooding. The scientists say we can head off the worst if we cut back on greenhouse gases. So in Paris tonight, a very difficult question: how do we reduce those greenhouse gases? Each of these cars adds a tiny bit to global warming. And think of all the millions around the world who haven't got a car but are trying to get one. Today was a landmark in the science of climate change. Now we have to see if there'll be a response. David Schuckman, BBC News in Paris.